I was sent this video entitled Games Workshop are deleting Warhammer YouTubers. Oh no! Please, sweet friend, tell me it is not true. This cannot be happening. What an outrageous thing. How did it come to this? If only there had been some sign, some warning, some indication of what was to come, perhaps even one single solitary glorious moment where this could all have been prevented. Say, I don't know, maybe the company GW could send out a blatantly spurious lawsuit claiming to own the word Warhammer as used in a context completely devoid from the actual Games Workshop tabletop of Warhammer, and in that very same spurious lawsuit threaten the YouTuber who received it, a kind, noble, gentle, and handsome man, that if he does not submit without a fight and remove that part of his name from YouTube, then they will be forced to go after any and all mentions of the word Warhammer on YouTube in total. If only in that moment a community had formed to say, no, GW, we won't let you get away with this ridiculous nonsense. Perhaps that could have been enough of a backlash to teach GW that they are not untouchable before they became the multi-billion-dollar juggernaut that they are today. Alas, such a purely hypothetical scenario could never possibly come to pass. Anyways, I do want to talk about this a little bit because it gives me an opportunity to hammer home the point that a fandom receives the community it creates and tolerates. In this case, we are speaking specifically about the creator community. And the creator community on YouTube has been full of nothing but rats and snakes practically since its inception. People who are out for themselves only and nobody else. But anyways, let's have a look. This is Discourse Minis, by the way, which I do hold separate from the previous accusation. She may be a crazy leftist, but other than that, I don't know anything particularly negative about the person.
This month, Games Workshop have declared war on YouTubers, gamers, and the entire Warhammer community. As
I feel like GW has declared war on them a few times at this point. Okay, right. 8 seconds. So, to continue the previous point, Games Workshop has been assaulting the community for a very, very long time, largely because there has been no sort of even remotely organized resistance. All of the community are so scattered and so divided, largely over political issues, to the point where there can be no effective resistance, and half of them are in Games Workshop's pockets with signed NDAs that states that they may not disparage the company publicly, meaning that GW can, in essence, do whatever the heck GW wants. And guess what? That is precisely what they are doing.
Massive content creators, hobby YouTubers, lore channels, 3D printers, video games, and more are all being deleted on their orders. And now even this channel, my own channel, is under major threat.
I'm in danger!
And this is a disastrous step by the Warhammer company because it has a huge negative impact on the entire community. And it especially affects anyone involved or interested in 3D printing or who feature Warhammer or third-party miniatures in their content, or even just people who want to play the game or are interested in Warhammer miniatures.
Yet again, if only there had been some sign, some indication that this was happening, say, 10 plus years ago, when it became clear that the company was utilizing politics as a shield from which to snipe at the target audience behind. Hell, maybe if there was even some indication that there are people working at the company who actively hate a solid part of the fandom, perhaps, who wish them dead, who were then shielded from consequences by Games Workshop themselves, a person with demonstrable and significant influence upon GW. If only, oh god, that might have been another moment where the community may indeed have been able to rally against the forces that are turning GW against its own fans, but, well, basically nobody talked about that. not Discourse Minis, not any of the mainstream commentators. In fact, I think I've seen precisely one YouTube channel mention it, and that was the God Empress of Mankind. That was it. None of the talking head had anything to say about a community manager wishing death upon his own fandom, and GW being very, very quiet about it. Not a word spoken there, not a one. Again, a fandom receives the creator community it tolerates and creates. Anyways, to return to the point.
No one is safe here. This is massive. It's incredibly controversial, and frankly, it's unbelievable. But it's happening, and we need to talk about it now.
And it's not really that unbelievable. It's been happening for quite a while now. You know, there was a recent thing where they launched another copyright series of claims, against Tabletop Simulator. So Tabletop Simulator, of course, is a game that allows you to simulate the tabletop. Derp. Anyways, it had a 40k module as one of the countless little workshop mods that are available on the game. This was actually copyright claimed like 2-3 years ago, I think? Ages ago now, and it was taken down. However, that happened, and then GW looked away, and it came back again. I think that was the second time it happened already at that point, because obviously GW paid brief attention, did the thing, and then the owners of Tabletop Simulator continued to ignore it because, well, why should they really care? There's no reason for it. And they'll simply rename it from Warhammer to Grimdark or something. Anyways, it is merely an example that this has been going on for a while now.
While I still have a channel, because this is a massive scandal and it's getting worse, and it's having a huge impact on the gaming hobby. So here is what's happening. We have just seen the launch of a new edition of Warhammer 40k, and when a new edition launches, Games Workshop do historically like to get a little bit like your manager who's stolen some extra drink tickets at the Christmas do. They get a little handy, a little bit groupie, they go too far, and face minimal consequences.
Largely correct, and the minimal consequences are the worst part of it, because again, in reality, the only ones who can even possibly hold a company like GW to ransom and to account are the creators. It's unfortunate and sad truth, but they are the people who form the general opinion against the company and around the company in general. Now, GW has always had legendarily negative PR, but they have been shown to budge to pressure campaigns in the past. I know, because I launched 2 of them, both of which saw results. However, without an actually unified and active creative community willing and able to stand up to GW and make it matter, it will have actually no consequence. And again, with over half of those very self-same creators under contract from Games Workshop, it's simply not going to happen. I mean, I've seen literal content creators post on other people's videos who have been flagged or taken down, for example, saying, I'm going to contact my person at GW to see if he can get this fixed. That is how you know that that person is a dog of the company. He's already on their leash. This is a company that tolerates no dissension whatsoever within its own ranks. So anyone who is actually receiving things from them, even in an unofficial quote-unquote capacity, is obviously and extraordinarily so compromised. But anyways, moving on.
And we first saw this when shortly after the launch of the new 11th edition of Warhammer 40k, Games Workshop shut down the massively popular Warhammer 40k Tabletop Simulator mod. Now, if you're not aware, Tabletop Simulator is...
Okay. Well, I guess that makes it thrice, then. And also, like, I'm assuming this is framed as recent news, mostly for shock and effect, but no. GW's been doing this for damn near a decade now. Again, Tabletop Simulator has been taken down, I'm pretty sure, twice in the past, and this will make now the 3rd time they place that particular game in their crosshairs.
Is a fantastic video game that is designed to be an open source digital physics engine where people can play tabletop games, board games, RPGs, and war games online. And it really is incredibly popular. And there are mods for the game that let people play games of digital Warhammer 40k, as well as dozens of other war games. And it's awesome. But now Warhammer Tabletop Simulator is gone, because earlier this month, Games Workshop issued a DMCA takedown of the platform, forcing it...
I wonder, actually. Hold on. Excuse-moi for a moment whilst I check a thing. And my hunch proved to be true. So, yes, this news is so incredibly goddamn old that just as with previous occasions when GW moves in to copyright Tabletop Simulator's 40k mods and gets them taken down for a brief instance, they're already right the hell back up again with 221 pages of results for the search of the word 40k. Listen, being very much so entrenched in this glass house myself, I shall throw no stones, but, if you're going to bring up news that are literally months and months old, you might actually check whether or not they still hold true. And I get it, I absolutely do. 40k has no right to do this, it's nonsensical, and they should simply let them live. However, this is very ancient news, which I am presuming will be used to launch into something more recent. I hope. Otherwise, this will simply be a wonderful excuse for me to whinge about the fact that the community is created by absolute snakes and bastards, and that most of our woes are more or less directly attributable to that very self-same group.
Done. They've deleted it from the Steam Workshop, and this has caused a ton of drama and anger in the Warhammer community, especially amongst the competitive side of the community who used it a lot. And also, they happen to be the biggest spenders in the hobby. But little did we know that this was just the beginning, because Games Workshop have now gone even further than before, declaring war on YouTubers, 3D printers, My Mini Factory, third-party miniature manufacturers, and really, the entire tabletop gaming hobby. And things will never be the same again unless they stop, because this story gets so much worse.
Okay, so the 3D printing part, again, not new by any stretch of the imagination, but this has been going on for a while now. I covered a story about this, last year, I think, where there was a person who had his entire company basically shut down and actually lawsuit, not just copyright claim, but an actual lawsuit launched against him for making what was 40k adjacent miniatures. And that was the verbiage, if I remember correctly, that GW used as well, that they could be used as an alternative or adjacent to Warhammer 40k. Now that was a chilling potential precedent, because if they get away with it, then basically anything and everything that resembles 40k becomes a legitimate copyright claim from Games Workshop, because they can now bring up a court case saying, hey, look at this, we got things taken down, we've got a court judgment in, I think it was Greece, which means it's probably counting for the entirety of the European Union, considering how that idiotic legal system works, although I may be incorrect on that one, where they go, listen, these miniatures were simply looking like they were alternatives, they could be used in Warhammer 40k, therefore copyright infringement. But again, old.
The modern table that you discover isn't actually made out of wood at the very worst possible time. But nope, it's just cardboard, because everything is disposable these days. Unfortunately, they just don't make things the way they used to. Except with today's sponsor, Holtzkern, who actually craft long-lasting products with meaning. Holtzkern make...
Yes. We were supposed to be talking about something important today. Let's not get into the advertisements.
Fully covered. So find...
Skip.
Because it's used by tons of people, most of which actually do have lots of models and armies or are very interested in buying models for Warhammer. Likewise, people with disabilities or who are unable to play games in person used this as an accessibility tool to finally get to use a facsimile of the many models that they have spent hundreds of dollars on. And honestly, just...
And more importantly, it's a way to play Warhammer 40k without getting a new car, driving for an hour to the local game shop, setting up, finding friends, organizing matches, etc. It was simply just a convenient tool. And seeing as GW has still stubbornly, and thank God I am now quite happy to say, never decided to make a digital equivalent of their board game, and may they continue to do so, as I have plans to make digital equivalents of my board game, this was really no competition to GW either, as it didn't compete or replace any of their actual products.
Just as a resource, it was a net positive for both the broader hobby and Games Workshop themselves. There are tons of TTS mods for other war games out there, and many of them even get officially endorsed by the game developers because they recognize...
See, now there's an interesting thing as well, because I myself and many others have used this argument countless of times, saying simply that allowing for a creative influencer community, or not influencer, modding community, will actually enhance the longevity of your game and spread it further to new people that haven't heard about it before. And this is absolutely true, but GW is in essence a monopoly. At this point, they are. We've just kind of got to accept that fact. Their only true competition came from things like Star Wars Legion, and it shot itself in the foot, and due to no real error of its own, mind you, but isn't it? And there are no really solid competitors, particularly in the grimdark space, meaning that GW, who is now hugely popular after an enormous COVID boost, have come to realize that, hold on, we've got Amazon contracts up and coming. We've got Henry Cavill making a goddamn TV show for us. Do we need modders to make us more well-known? Do we wish to risk people utilizing this instead of buying our miniatures? No, we don't have to take that risk because we're G-fucking-W.
How useful and how great this is for growing the hobby. But Games Workshop, they just did the opposite of that. And I wish that this was where they stopped. I wish this was as far as they had gone. But unfortunately, they went even further and something even darker has happened. Because alongside this takedown, Games Workshop have also started going after YouTubers.
So this is a little bit more interesting. Now, what was that one she showed there?
As far as they had gone. But unfortunately, they went even further and something even darker has happened. Because alongside this takedown, Games Workshop have also
Mordian Glory, officially blacklisted by Games Workshop. Okay, so I'm not sure if that's a lawsuit or a strike, but... I know I've been kind of harping on about how fucking ancient most of the news so far have been, but getting blacklisted by GW? I don't know how to tell you this, but that's decade-old news right there. Hi. That's me. In fact, we know for a fact I'm blacklisted because we have the company asking, GW that is, asking for a second company, Wargaming, to take me out of one of their promotional videos for World of Warships, incidentally, years and years ago, specifically because I am blacklisted. When I say that I'm blacklisted by companies like Creative Assembly and Games Workshop, I don't say that for any false glories or any like, oh, they don't like me. No. We have actual provable, legitimate proof of that fact. We have fucking paper. We've got documents on it. So, but again, this is kind of the problem right here, because I've whinged about this on multiple occasions before, but it is a genuine problem that deserves to be whinged about. But back in the day, I was one of the very first who started doing 40k lore on a large scale on YouTube, and especially commissioning my own art, for example, which I think I'm damn near the only one who still does, although it has been petering off lately. And I created, in essence, most of the majority of the current 40k channels. They popped up after me because they saw this was something that could potentially be successful. However, the curse of fucking foresight, I suppose, having seen a weakness in the market there and started doing Warhammer 40k and Warhammer lore, obviously beneficial, then also looked yet further into the future and saw, hold on, everything's going woke and weird. Everything is degrading. Entertainment is getting worse. Everything is getting political. I don't want this to happen to Warhammer 40k. And so I started to talk about it, which made me into a complete pariah in the entire community, and still probably one of its most favored members because of that very fact. But it also meant that all of the people who were at the time trying to suck YouTube and James GW's giant PP, and still are contractually obligated to in many occasions, couldn't stand by me or say anything positive about me. In fact, I doubt most of them would have done so even if they were not contractually obligated not to, as, again, the majority of the people I actually knew within the 40k community, some of the worst people I've ever actually come across. Unironically, no hyperbole intended. But this meant that we had no actual community, no unified opposition. We had no force to stand up against them. At GW, they're not stupid. They know this is a fact. They have a creative community made up near entirely of isolated, self-serving individuals. That's the very reason why I started the Community Spotlight back in the day, to elevate new channels, people that I had discovered who were smaller than me, and showing them up to my own audience. And every time, after one of those, I told them, if you ever need help with anything, tell me, I will do whatever I can, specifically because I knew this was going to happen. And, well, fuck, here we are. And it doesn't look like anybody else has built any alternative either, so I guess we're simply just kind of fucked, which is largely my analysis on the matter. At this point, GW is in far too dominant a position, and the creator community is far too scattered and far too politically henpecked to be able or willing or capable of standing up to the corporation, and especially unable to engage with one another on anything even remotely resembling a good faith basis. Basically, GW won, and now we're just going to have to see how badly they mismanaged their IP, and that will tell us how long the timeline going forward is.
started going after YouTubers, and they've also started deleting the channels of YouTubers. Just a few weeks ago, the YouTuber ProPaintPod had his entire YouTube channel deleted on the orders of Games Workshop, who...
Okay, that's actual news. Well, a few weeks old, but okay. So they sent a copyright strike from a third-party company that's notoriously for over-eager striking channels. A lot of the videos they've striked against don't even showcase GW products per their claim. I'm talking strikes against videos focusing on product models, station font, and wild mesh. The input strikes on videos that showcase printing and painting D&D style models.
Who over the last month issued over 30 copyright strikes to Google about his channel. And they did this all at once in a single big batch. They saved them all up like Walmart saves up shoplifter reports, so when the police finally get involved, it's for an amount so large that it results in major prison time. And this was the exact same principle. When you get one copyright strike on your channel, it goes away after 90 days. If you get 3 copyright strikes, your entire channel gets deleted. So Games Workshop waited and then issued out over 30 strikes all at once.
I mean, the very fact that he still has the opportunity to even appeal is better than it used to be. It used to be that they simply deleted your Google account in its entirety, meaning your email account as well. Yeah, kind of devastating. But no, that is absolutely something that GW will do, and probably, I would wager, as a result of their new AI tool, which has been scanning YouTube and various 3D printable pages as well for anything that resembles GW miniatures. Because again, as I already mentioned, that lawsuit, like a year or so ago, it was the Greek dude, they are going after these companies with the explicit intent to try and create precedents for Warhammer equivalent models, things that could be used as an alternative,
making these impossible to fight. And the result was that even after appealing against it, even after taking down the flagged videos, this wasn't good enough. The entire YouTube channel...
Oh yeah, taking down the videos does nothing. It seems ridiculous, but yes, no. Removing the offending content is irrelevant. You have to actually prove them incorrect on the merits of the copyright claim itself, which... You send in the dispute, they then have 30 days to respond, or no, it's 2 weeks now, isn't it? And then if they just reject that, you can escalate, and they get another couple of weeks to respond, and if that doesn't happen, if they still maintain it, then you basically have to take them to court.
Was deleted. So what was it then that infringed on Games Workshop copyright that forced them to issue these strikes? Well, this is where things get really dark, because it reveals something terrifying about the future of our hobby. See, the reason all these...
Does it reveal anything, or does it bring up things we already knew, but for some reason we were all too fucking stupid to rally against?
These videos got copyright struck was because this creator was making content, giving tips about and teaching people how to 3D print miniatures in your own home with a 3D printer from one of the many, many brands that sell 3D printers. That doesn't...
I feel like we're being a pinch dishonest here. Like, even GW might.
Sound too bad, right? And here's the thing, the miniatures weren't even Warhammer models. In fact, they were not related to Games Workshop at all. They were from a completely different company. They were from a company that sells digital STL files that you can print at home. These are miniatures designed to be printed. And specifically, they were from... the model manufacturer Station Forge, a very popular creator on the very mainstream popular website My Mini Factory. As well as that, he also showed how to print off mini...
One moment. Right, so not to take GW's side on this, but I've brought this point up in the past as well. So here is Station Forge, one of the examples of the models they've created. These are the Grim Guard Evaporators. See, here's the problem. Copyright does exist. Okay, and copyright is largely an interpretive thing. You are going to have to argue your case. It is very difficult to make a clear-cut case of copyright, because you might have something that has basically the exact same logo, but exists in 2 completely different areas. For example, you can have a, I think this was actually a literal case, where there was a company called Whirlpool, not the washing machines, that did like bathtubs or something, or pools, and then there was another company also called Whirlpool, but they did like cleaning and stuff. And they actually took each other to court, like, oh, you can't be called Whirlpool, we'll Whirlpool. And the defendant actually won because the court said, well, you're named Whirlpool and your icons do kind of like match, but he's cleaning, you're doing like, not bathrooms, pools or whatever. Therefore, you're not in the same area, you're not competing, you're not stealing each other's business. There is no risk of the audience confusing the 2 of you. Like, it's a highly interpretive legal case. And it includes many factors like, for example, whether the common man might be able to mistake one product for the other. Yeah. and whether or not the product might compete with the already existing product, whether a man might purchase one over the other, either due to confusion or, say, price differences. Yeah. See, here's the problem. Simply dismissing this as not at all a Games Workshop-related company, which they aren't, mind you, they're an independent creator, Starforge, kind of misses the point here, because you do have to approach this with a degree of nuance. This probably deserves a copyright claim, or at the very least more like a warning or anything, because these are Deathcore of Krieg models. And it's not because GW owns, like, the World War II Stahlhelm or the idea of gas masks. It is the entire ensemble taken together. If you took this to court, this exact example, my money would be on GW 9 times out of 10. You've got several examples of this, like this. This is Guilliman. And again, bear in mind here, you're basically trying to convince a boomer judge and or a boomer jury about the merits of your case. If you put that model in front of a boomer judge with no idea what Warhammer 40k is, and simply show it that next to the Guilliman model, and you paint them both looking like Ultramarines, yeah, you get my drift. Whereas there are other models like this, for example. This, GW does not have anything that looks like this. They might have something with pieces that look like this, like the cannon's a little bit orky, the crew's a little bit orky, like the turret's a bit orky, but that is a land ship. I've been out of the loop for a little bit, but I cannot remember GW producing anything that looked like that. That is fair use. That is okay. That is creative. There's no copyright case there. This is one of the more, like, middle of the road kind of things, where that is obviously an Earthshaker artillery piece right there, without the, self-propelled chassis, which would make it a Basilisk. However, it is also, at the end of the day, basically just a generic World War I gun, and GW doesn't own the copyright to generic World War guns. So that one would be a bit more dubious, but things like this and that, again, you've got to view this through the eyes of a boomer judge, and this is dumb. This is just actually dumb, and you shouldn't engage with it, because GW can and probably will smack that if they're willing to smack, and I remind you, a Warhammer model, as in the Battle Mech model, in their various massive IP sweeps. You better fucking believe they'll smack that. But, anyways, returning to the point.
From Wild Mesh, another popular, totally independent.
Oh, that too, like, that's an entirely fine model, like, it's got certain cornered inspirations, but no, that's too is entirely fine.
And a legitimate company. Both of these stores are very popular, and lots of people print and use these miniatures for a whole variety of different games. I own some myself. These people are competitors to Games Workshop. So
that's the worst thing you can say. That is... Like I just said, a big part of copyright is whether or not the models can be mistaken for the models, and whether or not they might be competing for market share with the models, specifically also by being mistaken for the models, but that's details.
To be clear, these aren't bootleg Warhammer. This is a completely unrelated brand through Games Workshop. It's nothing to do with Warhammer, and in fact,
I know it's bootleg Warhammer. Like, again, we gotta be at least to a degree honest. That is bootleg Warhammer. Well, not that. That's... I don't know what that is. That is a troll.
Like, some of the videos that got copyright strikes from Games Workshop were tutorials on how to paint Dungeons and Dragons models. But
Now that, of course, is an obvious mistake. And again, we know that the AI that Games Workshop uses is way oversensitive. We saw that in the recent mass claims, like, what, a year ago, I think, or so? Where they claimed a bunch of models that had nothing to do with Warhammer. Not even, like, legally distinct or anything, but literally from different IPs entirely.
apparently this didn't matter. Games Workshop decided that this all fell under the Warhammer IP, that this was a copyright threat to their brand. Simply teaching people how to 3D print miniatures was just too much for them. And
oh, and again, this isn't about teaching people to 3D print miniatures. Well, it might be a part of it, but I very much so doubt it, as GW doesn't really see 3D printing as a direct threat at the moment. They've never have, really, because they've never made any moves whatsoever to counter it. I think they're simply too boomer to understand the potential of the technology, and to be fair, the spread of the technology has nowhere been anywhere even close to as rapid as most people had predicted anyways. But the reason why they're doing this specifically is because they can get away with it. If they could launch like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 claims against his channel, then, you know, he could fight that. He could absolutely fight that. If they launch 34 and they simply just tag random videos to include them in the search and then simply reject the appeal, as bear in mind here, YouTube has no real power in this case other than outright dismissing something, which they do very, very rarely. And only really in cases where it is obviously egregiously wrong, right? And it needs to be really fucking blatantly obviously wrong. Otherwise, YouTube will simply just pass the ball over to the opposing side, who will then take the maximum amount of time only to tell you, no, we don't accept that, and then you'll just continue down the road.
How did Games Workshop come to this conclusion? How did they find this channel? Well, it's because Games Workshop have started something new. They've started using AI to trawl the internet and flag anything that looks even vaguely like a Warhammer model. And then
Correct. Market, target, search, something. This too was something we heard about a solid year ago, I think.
issue out strikes to those creators for copyright infringement. And they are now doing it for anything that is vaguely related to tabletop gaming. And to do this, they've been using a tool called MarkScan, which brags that it is digital brand protection using an AI system designed to identify and remove online piracy. In practice, what this means is that this MarkScan tool scans videos and then sends out copyright strikes to YouTube automatically when it sees a miniature. And then YouTube takes these copyright claims and actions them without comment or pushback. They ignore.
Yes, because YouTube doesn't do anything. YouTube simply receives the paperwork and then pushes it down the road to the creator.
For appeals, and they refuse to fight back against Games Workshop's insane claims to ownership of vaguely gas mask or power armor looking guys. And to be
Which is an interesting question, by the way, because on the one hand, YouTube doesn't really have the right or the ability to fight back if they were a publisher purely, mind you. But obviously, they're not a publisher, they're a platform. They are actively pushing things. The mere existence of an algorithm proves that they are a publisher, excuse me, not a platform. That they are actually pushing things. And so they should absolutely take legal actions to protect their consumers based upon the legal framework that YouTube, well, primarily works under, which would be the American fair use system. In which case, by the way, with fair use, if you were going purely by American law, this would be better. You might be able to argue it, but like in UK, not a fucking chance. In the US, probably still 70% advantage to the to GW, but at least you'd have something.
Be clear, this is AI making a major mistake. And I know what you're saying. AI making a mistake? That's crazy. But
Oh no, it's not making a mistake. Again, like, no, this is not a mistake. This is deliberate. This is a strategy. This is them thinking, we are attempting to expunge the competition, what little is left of it, because we know they have no major platforms. We know they have no major allies. We know they have no major backing. And what backing does exist is too scattered to do anything effective about it. They simply don't have the clout to push back against GW. And so they will cast the net as wide and as broad as possible to catch as many people as possible. This is a deliberate assault, not an accident.
But it's true. It's actually making an error. It is misidentifying miniatures. And it is confusing them as Warhammer models. Miniatures of guys in gas masks are being flagged up by this AI as Deathcore of Krieg models.
Now again, but no, again, it is absolutely a deliberate strategy. It is them casting the net as wide as they can to catch as many people as they can.
Erroneously, and it's resulting in people losing their livelihoods. This is a major crisis in the hobby, because Pro Game Pod isn't alone.
Man, I wish people cared about people's livelihoods, you know, a few years ago, but
A few months ago, even a ton of lore channels were hit by takedowns for using Games Workshop words as well. The massive YouTuber, the Amber King, who does Warhammer lore videos, was hit with copyright strikes from Mark's.
Eisenhower Part 2, The Road Confounded. Horrible news strike up in front of you. Eisenhower Part 1 2 subs can have been copyright removed, and my channel has received a strike. Honestly, I'm mildly surprised they only gave him one strike.
On a bunch of his videos, and he was forced to take them down. Dark Narrator was also hit. He got his channel suspended. And at the time, it seemed like it was just lore YouTubers being hit. But now this has escalated, and all hobby content creators and 3D printer YouTubers are being hit too. They're now at risk. And the precedent that is being set here is really chilling. It seems that the mere act of 3D printing models is now enough to get your entire YouTube channel deleted if you're not lucky. If MarkScan finds you. Not that we're hiding, this is a legitimate thing. But let's be clear, Games Workshop are overstepping the mark, and they are enforcing their copyright extremely aggressively, and they're not giving a shit about who it hurts or how it impacts gamers of the hobby. But this is
Yeah, and it's because they can. They can get away with it. Nobody's going to stop them. Nobody's going to be able to challenge them. Nobody's going to take them to court, even if they do take them to court. In the majority of cases, the cases are too weak to stand up to court, and so you'd be spending, oh god, hundreds of thousands of dollars, probably, at the very least, defending a case that you know for sure isn't a slam dunk. Like,
This is hurting Warhammer YouTubers and content creators, and it's hurting the open ecosystem of resources.
And again, if there was a solid nucleus of a community, perhaps there could be enough pushback, but there isn't.
That is available here for gamers, because now every single Warhammer YouTuber is at risk of being shut down without warning out of nowhere because a trigger-happy AI idiot bot has been programmed to nuke any channel that might be showing non-Games Workshop models, or even how to...
Wow. Yet again. And I know I'm kind of climbing up on my cross here, but if only somebody had seen this coming before, if only this precise threat, in fact, had been levied before.
Print them. I'm really worried about this. It is having a chilling effect on creators. If any video talking about 3D printing in the vicinity of Warhammer is fair game, then we're all doomed. Is Uncle Adam going to get flagged for his video?
No. He's not going to get flagged because he has the correct politics and because he's a YouTube shill. That's why. He's on their payroll. I guarantee it. He receives their models for free. He signed the contract. He's a member of the club.
Comparing Frostgrave Cyborgs to AdMax Servitors? Is any coverage of Trench Crusade a potential death sentence for a channel?
No, because they too are large enough. Well, for the channel, maybe. But Trench Crusade, no. Trench Crusade has the clout. They have the power. They have the ability to fight it legally, even though Trench Crusade is also inspired, shall we say, by GW. Plus, that is what I mean by legally distinct. Like, okay, so look at that. That's their stormtroopers, right? Obviously, you've got the Stahlhelm, you've got the gas mask. However, then you have all the additional details. You've got the iconography is different. You've got the little baby on his belt. You've got all the little extra things. You've got the weapons. You've got the setting itself. You have the fact that it belongs to a setting, which would be a major argument in any court case, where you go like, no, we are not an alternative for 40k. Look at all of the lore we have. We are our own thing. So again, comparing this to this is little dishonest.
Oh, and finally, I actually have a video planned out for this August this year talking about 3D printing FEM miniatures, similar to videos that ProPaintPod has done. And now I'm not sure if I can even show that video without running the risk of my entire channel being deleted, or at the very...
I sure as fuck wouldn't print anything legally distinct of GW models.
least getting a copyright strike on the channel, which can hurt monetization. So this is especially hurting the 3D printing side of YouTube. I mean, there's a huge niche of creators showing 3D printers how to 3D print models. It's an entire hobby in and of itself. And while Games Workshop have always felt threatened by this, I never thought they'd go this far, even if it's not exactly the most surprising turn of events. So I've been investigating Marscan, and as far as I can tell, it is in essence a massive scam being deployed by Games Workshop. As far as we know, it is a company based in India, and reviews online of the service that they provide reveal that they are serial harassers. There's allegations against the company that they repeatedly issue fake DMCA takedowns against websites, that they attempt to extort creators for money, and that they ignore fair use arguments and defenses. And we're seeing that on our end. And one look at the website of the system is all the proof that anyone needs to know that it has been poorly implemented. I mean, it's an embarrassing website, incredibly amateur. Looks like something I would make. They brag about doing forensic investigations, but it's all entirely AI driven. And while Games Workshop continue to...
That's probably the AI created, frankly. And yes, no. And it's not a scam, because none of this is happening by accident. This is very much so a deliberate market strategy on GW's behalf. And again, it's very important you actually make that distinction, because the one allows open the idea that GW just doesn't know what's happening. If only we can tell the Tsar what's going on in Russia, he will fix our problems because he loves his people. No, he fucking hates you and wants you to suffer. It's the same with GW. They hate you and they want you to suffer.
Pay the scam company money and give them the power to enforce their copyright. All of YouTube is on CF for people who show 3D printing, who try to make 3D printing easier, or who are simply interested in tabletop gaming. I mean, what's next? Are people going to be flagged for having Space Marines? No, I've seen some people actually defending this.
In fact, I think, yeah, people already have been flagged for being having Space
behavior
Marines
from Games Workshop. Both the tabletop simulator takedown and now the YouTube takedowns as well. And the arguments they use are based on this strange idea that Games Workshop don't want to actually do any of this, but that they are forced to by their evil lawyers. Because if Games Workshop don't enforce their IP, then they will lose their copyright claims to Warhammer. If you go onto any hobby space...
Okay, so this is actually an argument that I have fallen foul of in the past as well, because there are certain requirements that you have to continuously produce your IP, and there has also been the thing going around the internet that you have to enforce your IP, and there are certain unofficial demands of this that has been raised in court cases previously, but in reality, it's not anywhere near that cut and dry. GW absolutely could simply ignore all of this, and there would be no real legal consequences, as the requirements for abandoning an IP are significantly higher than merely not going after people who do copyright infringement. You actually do have to literally just reject your own IP for that to have happen. And this is a very common myth, and again, I've fallen for it myself in the past too. And it's one of those cases where, like, the argument basically boils down to GW could choose not to do this. And yes, they could. And there would be no necessarily legal consequences for them choosing not to do this, but your only argument for them not to do so is a moral one. It is not right. And it isn't right. But GW doesn't give a fuck about what's right. They are not a moral company, they don't behave like a moral company, and any continued idiotic idea that they are, again, falls into the same trap we talked about earlier. You've simply got to recognize that GW are fucking evil, okay? They hate you. They protect the people that hate you. And if they could, they would literally tie you to a fucking stump outside the store and make you spend every last cent on their products. GW are the bad guys in this equation. They're not misunderstood. This isn't an error. They're not whoopsie-poopsying all of this. They are just simply fucking evil. Anyways, so as we're clearly wandering a little bit into the weeds on this now with the copyright thing, yeah, I'm just going to wrap it up there on the 2 points that, one, GW can do this because there is no organized source of pushback. It doesn't exist. I myself organized 2 email campaigns against YouTube, both of which got responses and were acknowledged by YouTube. Nothing changed. And that was just me, myself, because nobody else wanted to talk about it. The entire Tom Mendelsohn situation was, again, basically just me. Everybody else complains about things they've already been doing for ages, copyright nonsense, egregious prices, etc. None of this will work. GW has absolutely no reason at all to go, oh, we've been overpricing our products? We've been abusing our copyright powers? Oh no, if only we'd been made aware of this earlier. No, they're doing it on fucking purpose. God help me. I don't... it's anyways, the point is, they're not going to stop. The only way you can make them stop this is by doing what I've been doing. It is to try to change the culture surrounding GW, and at the moment there's no way you can do that. All of these arguments have been spouted for decades now. GW is too expensive, they're too asshole-ish, they abuse copyright. We know, it's old fucking news. We have to find a different angle to try and force the company to abide by our own best interests, and the Tom Mendelsohn position was the perfect opportunity to do that. And every last one of the fucking snakes and weasels in the community just let it pass on by because it was too political for them. Fucking weakling scum. And again, like, if your only fucking complaints about GW is this nonsense, oh, they're too expensive, oh, they're abusing copyright, you're controlled opposition, okay? And I'm sure, like, this minifigurator person is a nice person, and I'm sure they don't mean to be controlled opposition, but that is what they are. They are spouting the same old bullshit that will result in absolutely nothing. They're not actually trying to do anything. They're not organizing any response, etc., etc. It is all wasted fucking time and effort. It is... I don't want to use this word because it's a bit of a harsh accusation, but it becomes, in essence, grifting, because you're not actually trying to do anything about it. You're simply repeating the same old adages, the same old offenses that have taken course of the last, well, fuck, it's not even the last decade, 2 or 3, but pretty much since the goddamn fucking founding of 40K. So, yeah. This got a bit more black pill than I thought, honestly. I figured this would be a nice little feel-good video about Arch saying, I was right. Look, if we had all listened to Arch, there would be a very different situation right now, which, by the way, it would. Had we all listened to Arch, everything would have looked rather different. And on that topic, I do have to do one last thing. Fuck you, I was right. 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 Fuck you, I was right.